I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Chris Kalaboukis. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. It's a great pleasure to connect with you, Chris. Do tell me, what parts of the world are you in right now?
I am in Silicon Valley, California.
Sweet.
That's
Sweet. Well, that's great. That's great. We were there for a bit just last month. California is amazing. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful place. I love it.
The weather is amazing, man. It's like the Caribbean.
I don't know. I think Caribbean weather might be a touch better.
Well, I cannot fight that battle. Do tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this specific time in history?
Oh, well, I'm a fellow podcaster as well. I've been podcasting. I was podcasting a long time ago. I started podcasting way back in 2005 when I first read an article in Wired magazine. Do you remember Wired magazine?
I do.
On podcasting. It was a great cover. It said "The Death of Radio," and it had a picture of a radio with like a bullet flying through it. And they were talking about how podcasting was basically going to destroy radio. No one was going to listen to radio anymore because everything would be all podcasting. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. I really need to get into this. And I started getting into it, and I was doing it for a really long time for a while. And then I stopped doing it, and now I'm back into doing it again. So that's where I'm at. And podcasting kind of went through a little bit of a lull there when YouTube launched. And now there's a huge resurgence back in podcasting. So I just want to ride that wave again. It was really cool.
That's excellent. What's the name of your podcast?
It's called the Think Future podcast. And basically we talk about the future, innovation, and startups. Not necessarily in that order. And I also go off on different tangents as well. So talk about a lot of different things.
That's intriguing. Now, the website is helloFUTURE, right?
That's the name of my company. That's right. And the podcast is attached to that. And the website for the podcast is called Think Future Podcast. And it just redirects to one of the sub categories of that site. But yeah, and then sometimes I have guests on. A couple of weeks ago, I had Marie Leroux from Thomson Reuters, and we were talking about design thinking. And sometimes it's just sort of a monologue where I'm talking about specific issues of the day, how to innovate. One of the things we do often is run a corporate futurist program where we go into companies and we help them innovate by setting their employees' mindsets into the future. So instead of thinking about what's going to happen next week or the week after or a few weeks from now, it's what's going to happen 10 years out. Where's your company going to be? Where are you going to be? Where are your customers going to be? What kind of products and services would you be selling in that far future time frame? So we try to kind of expand their mindset. So that's why we kind of combine the futurism with the innovation and the startup thinking in the podcast.
Who did you learn the visionary skill from? Being able to have vision and see forward.
It's funny you should mention that because I've always been a big sci-fi fan since I was a kid, and being under the covers and with my flashlight and reading all these novels about the far future. I always thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be great if we could somehow come up with these futures? And I always wanted to be that person who be sort of envisioning where things are going to be in the future. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Silicon Valley. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. And I thought, well, if I want to be part of the future, if I want to be involved in the future, then I got to be where the future starts. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here. So yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I've got something like 70 plus patents in all different areas: social media, technology, internet, etc. So I've been thinking about the future for a long time, and I really enjoy it.
Why will you continue to follow this path? I mean, just moving from Toronto to all the way down on the west, that alone is different. But why will you continue to repeat the skills, nevertheless, of what it takes to be a visionary?
Oh, the future is so amazing. See, that's the beautiful thing about it, is that it's the only thing that's not yet written. Right? We can decide what the future is going to be. We can decide where we're going to go. We can decide what we're going to do. It's the only thing that hasn't been decided already. So that's why we have the most power to affect our future, and we have the most power to affect our trajectory in our lives. And that's what's so exciting to me about it, is that outside of the business side of things, even personally, I mean, the future is where we're going. And I've always been interested in where we're going and how to get to there in the best path. And I'm always interested as well in sort of helping humans be better humans. So there's all sorts of talk about artificial intelligence and all sorts of other technologies taking over and destroying what it means to be human. I'm really big proponent of sort of bringing that back. We still need to be human. Our computers and our technology needs to support our humanity, and we need to help. We need it to sort of be beside us in our quest to become better humans.
Amazing audience. You're hearing it live again from Chris Kalaboukis. Chris, do tell me one other thing you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Something I've done consistently over the last 3 years is write. I love writing. And I think that one day, whenever I actually put up my spurs and say I'm going to retire and stop working as hard as I've been working, that I'm just going to write and write and write and write. I've written science fiction novels. I've written all sorts of blog posts and all sorts of other books, etc. And I just enjoy just sitting down, writing and thinking and generating all of this great writing for people to read. And I really love getting feedback and hearing from people saying, this is good stuff. So I love writing. I enjoy it a lot. And I think that's something I'm just going to continue doing forever, no matter what.
Why would you suggest to someone that's listening that they do that, incorporate that part of their business into writing?
Well, I think it's not just writing itself, but I think what happens is a lot of people are so focused on consumption that they've forgotten about the other side, is that human beings are awesome at creating. We can create fantastic things, whether it's a podcast or a blog post or a video on YouTube. We are great at creating. And I think a lot of times people spend too much time consuming and not enough time creating. The trick is, consume a lot, have it all bubble around in your head, and then come out and let's hear your opinion. Let's hear your thoughts. Let's hear what you think about this and that. So being able to create content, get it out on the internet, let people talk about it. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the internet. It's basically a point-to-point communications mechanism. We've never in the history of humanity had a system that allows anyone on the planet to talk to anyone else on the planet in all different ways, text, audio, and video. So it's a phenomenal tool, and I think everybody should be out there using it to create and tell us their visions of their lives and their futures.
Love it. Well said. Bringing the value. Chris, let's switch gears for a moment. Now let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Chris, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Oh my gosh. I think it has to be what I was saying before, is like being under the covers, listening to the radio, reading a science fiction novel and going, boy, that's a really cool future. And I love that. And I would love to be part of that. I'd love to be in, hurtling through space in a starship. I love Star Trek and all the different science fiction that's out there. And I think that's my earliest thing, is like always wanting to look at the future and be where the future is.
How old do you think you were in that memory?
Oh, geez. Pretty young. Just a little bit over reading age. I don't remember that when that was. But.
Wow. How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
Oh, it's basically made me who I am. If it wasn't for that desire to be part of the future and want to create the future, then I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be in the profession that I'm in, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I'm basically, this is the thing I love to say, is that I'm actually following the path that I set out for myself when I was a kid and doing the thing I love. And there's so few people who can say something like that. It's great. Yeah, and amazing. I think if anybody can do that, they should.
Yeah, that's amazing. You sound happy. Can I offer an interpretation or an addition to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Let's hear it.
I love the model or the concept of the imagery metaphorically interpreting the concepts of what happened under that sheet, the darkness that surrounded, and the light being that one thing that made everything brighter. And I compare that to when you spoke about consumption and the specific child in you that is now that person who is creating that content, which represents the light in the midst of the consumption of content. So I just love how that just circled around, the darkness is there and then the light is there. Not saying that consumption or consumerism is darkness, but just, you being the light with the content you're creating. It was just fascinating to see that imagery flash across.
Yes. Absolutely, that's fantastic. I love the way you interpreted that. That's great.
Oh, thank you. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh my God, that would just totally age me. I don't remember, but I was a huge new wave fan. So Devo and the Talking Heads and that era. I don't remember how old I was when I was into that, but I was a huge fan of that. And I think anything from the Talking Heads and the Remain in Light album where they're talking about, and one of the beautiful things about that album is that they just got back, David Byrne, who's the lead singer from Talking Heads, had just got back from Africa. And he had started to incorporate all these African rhythms into the music. And the interesting thing about that is that he actually drove me to do some research on African rhythms and African sensibility. It's a book that he read prior to introducing that into the music. And it was interesting about how music itself in Africa and how we interpret music, it's this whole call and response thing. It's a communication medium. It just made music so powerful to me as a communication medium that it gave whole new facets to what I thought about music is and how music came about. And it's interesting how music is just so powerful and it tugs on so many emotions as human beings. It's an amazing thing. So that's kind of where I think that's where I was when I was listening to that. So I think it was like Talking Heads and the Remain in Light album. I don't remember a specific song on there, but that entire album really, really spoke to me.
I love to connect things. You never told me that before, but I mean, just the remaining light and the concept of you being under the sheet. It's amazing how that connects, right?
That's right. I just thought of it. Wow. Thank you.
That is amazing. Wow. I'm fascinated as well. Well, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready? Chris, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Oof. My child. My son.
Sweet. Are you married?
Yes, I'm married. I have 3 boys.
Wow, a handful. Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
You do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, I do not.
How about 3 hours a week?
About 3 hours a week, yeah.
What about screen time? The phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8?
I'm always in front of one. Always. I keep thinking the day of, have you ever seen that Black Mirror episode where they're like totally surrounded by screens? He lives in a tiny box,
yes,
and his life is totally surrounded by screens.
Yes.
Like that's where we're going. That's the one. I love that show because it's such a pure, almost such a true to life representation of where the future is going to be. It's scary, but it's true at the same time. So, well, although my favorite interpretation of the future in media is actually the movie Her. Have you seen the movie Her?
I've not seen that.
Oh, Spike Jonze
I need to.
A fabulous movie. I watched that movie, and I think that is a really, really accurate representation of where I see the future is going. So, yeah, if you want a good, accurate representation, take a look at that.
I'll do that. Chris, if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, what would you say that is?
I think who I am?
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Future.
Love it. 2 words, Mr. Future. Yeah. I will add. Can I add something? Sure. Please. Yeah. I would say the remaining light.
But Chris, make me want to go listen to that album again. I'm going to start it up right now.
Love it. Chris, this is a great pleasure, my friend. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, but other than that, just reiterate my message of create. The mediums are out there. The accessibility is out there. The audience is out there. just dig into your soul and tell everybody what you think. It just creates something and get it out there on the internet. People love you.
Love it. Chris Kalaboukis, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.